What's up guys, Specstar here today with a video on the newly released Pokemon Zeraora. And for those of you who don't know, Zeraora was released I believe yesterday, and it is a fast mixed attacking electric type Pokemon which I think has some real potential to shake up things in Draft League. And I know that a lot of you guys haven't used Zeraora before, particularly with it being new, and I would say most leagues not allowing it. But I have used it before, and I've had some good success using it, and I thought I should take this time and talk about Zeraora. In fact, I actually have it currently in a league that I'm in. I am still in that league. My opponent's been jawning me, but I should have a new video up for that soon enough. But anyway, back to the talk of Zeraora. The first thing I wanted to do when talking about this Pokemon is just kind of look at its stats and talk about its ability to Volt Absorb, very relevant. An electric immunity is a must-have in League format. An electric immunity is definitely more of a must-have than the electric type itself, in my opinion. Zeraora has 143 speed, and that is the highlight of this Pokemon. When you make it jolly or timid or naive or hasty, it gets up to 423 speed. This is particularly interesting in League format because a lot of the time you're going to get to run this modest, adamant, naughty, rash, something like that, and you'll still be able to get up to 385 speed. It's faster than Greninja, it's faster than Weavile, all these very quick Pokemon it's faster than without a speed boosting nature. So the difference is pretty interesting because it's not that powerful. 112 attack, 102 special attack, it's not that much. But when you consider that you're gonna get to run it adamant a lot, you get up to 355 attack, and that's actually pretty damn good. So it's definitely not that bad stat-wise. The speed kind of makes up for some of its other shortcomings. And certainly that ability helps with its bulk isn't great, it's not bad either. It becomes more relevant when you look at it as a Pokemon that has an immunity to one of the more prominent types, especially because electric types, usually the other moves they have to hit Pokemon are hidden power ice, stuff like that, and Zeraora just kind of munches on those. I'll talk later about the possibility of running this thing with an Assault Vest to make more use of its bulk. It's something I have done and I think is a pretty interesting option. But first I want to start off with its Life Orb set. And probably you're going to see this thing being hasty, something like that. Normally you would want to have more physical defense, but seeing as Zeraora is an electric immunity, it's probably going to come in on electric types a lot, and they're usually special attackers. So for Zeraora, you may opt to go hasty over naive. You could do either, depending on your matchup, of course. The reason usually most Pokemon want to be naive and drop special defense instead is because of priority hits, which are almost all physical. That's one of the big reasons. But as Zeraora is coming in a lot on electric types, you may opt to go the other way. If you're running I didn't mean to click that. Whatever. If you're running a mixed Zeraora, you probably want to be running these moves: Knockoff, Hidden Power Ice, Plasma Fist, which I should have talked about that actually. Let's go back to this. Plasma Fist is one of the things that makes Zeraora very interesting because that's a 100 power, 100 accuracy physical electric move, and there really just aren't that many Pokemon that love to munch on physical electric moves. And it has an interesting effect that it works kind of like Ion Deluge in that it turns normal type moves into electric type. And what I mean by that is, say you have this thing out against, Mega Lopunny for example, you hit it with a Plasma Fist, and it goes for return, it's going to turn that return into an electric type move, and it will trigger your Volt Absorb. So this thing, if it hits something with Plasma Fist, it becomes immune to normal type moves, which is pretty interesting. I'm not sure how competitively relevant it is, but it's definitely an interesting little effect to this move. Anyway, back to Life Orb. You're probably going to want to run Knock Off, Hidden Power Ice, Plasma Fist, and Close Combat. You could also look at Grass Knot if your opponent has something like a Swampert or a Gastrodon. Close Combat, just a great coverage move to have on almost anything. Knock Off, very useful to be able to hit things that resist Plasma Fist. And also, the beauty of Knock Off is it kind of creates situations where you don't really have to predict. It hits hard enough that even if whatever you have this out on stays in, it's going to take a hit that it doesn't like taking. Hidden Power Ice, of course, hits the ground types, which are immune to this thing's Plasma Fist. And Life Orb, probably one of the best items you can have on a mixed attacking set. You can also run a set very similar to this with Expert Belt. A lot of people don't like Life Orbs in the League format, but it's pretty nice with Zeraora increasing its damage output while still allowing it to mix up moves. And the next set I want to talk about is my personal favorite. And you're likely going to run this Jolly, and that is Choice Banded Zeraora. The reason I like Choice Banded so much is just because you take that attack, you give it a boost, and that Plasma Fist hits really hard. And when it's banded, a lot of the Pokemon that would come in on Plasma Fist just hate getting that banded knockoff. So this is a very hard Pokemon to switch in on, and a banded variant is a very good cleaner late game. So for those of you who don't know what a cleaner is, you kind of wear down your opponent's team throughout the game, and then at the end you bring in your cleaner to try and clean up what's left. You try to take out the remainder of the team when it's weakened. And Zeraora makes a fantastic cleaner, and Bandit is probably my favorite option to do that with. And it could also have I have Knockoff, Close Combat, Plasma Fist, and Quick Attack here. Quick Attack's very interchangeable. You could run something like Fire Punch there, Outrage, something like that. Just kind of depends on the matchup. You could run Volt Switch even. Volt Switch is always just a great move to have. And the next set I want to look at is Special. And Special is probably going to be Life Orb or Expert Belt as well. It's the same with the good old standard mix Life Orb type. Special, it's probably the item you want to have. It doesn't have that much special attack. Interestingly, it has more than Starmie, but what doesn't? Grass Knot, Hidden Power Ice, just great for hitting the ground types. Volt Switch, one of the best moves in the game. Being able to do that damage and also just be able to hit things like maybe a grass type that wants to come in, be able to hit that and get out safely. Just a great move. And Thunderbolt, just an electric move you can clean with more power, just kind of take some chunks out. You could conceivably run Specs. I just think you may be more likely to want a Life Orb or an Expert Belt on this type of set. Magnet's also a very real option to boost the electric type moves. You probably want it to be Timid. Also, of course, in a lot of games, Modest is going to be a real option. And then this is just kind of a more out there thing. Zeraora could be a potential lead / anti-lead. Fake Out, break any sashes. Endeavor plus Quick Attack, get some priority there. If you want to throw a sash on it, maybe you can taunt to prevent webs or other sorts of lead hazards, anything like that. And just an interesting little option that can become more relevant in certain types of league sort of matches. And next I want to talk about other options it has. Assault Vest, very real option. Of course, we talked about Magnet to boost it, that's pretty nice. Choice Scarf is a very interesting set. In the league where I have Zeraora now, in the week 1 matchup I did, I led off with a Choice Zeraora. a choice Scarf Zeraora, and I bopped a Mega Cathedral turn 1. It's pretty interesting anti-Scarfer set. A lot of people let their guards down because they won't think a Pokemon this quick is going to be Scarf, but it is a pretty interesting option. Outrage is a move to hit Dragon types, which can be very, very useful in certain situations. Fire Punch, of course, just hit grasses pretty well. Throat Chop is good for things like Mega Laddies and even voice move users. Although I don't think many of the voice move users are taking Plasma Fist very well. You could run something like Calm Mind, Bulk Up, and I believe it learns Work Up too. Yeah, it does also learn Work Up. So it has some interesting setup options, although I'm sure the thing would be much happier if it could learn Swords Dance or Nasty Plot. But there are definitely some setup options with this thing. And it also can make a pretty good Z user. Dragonium Z for Outrage, of course Electrium Z, just to make that Plasma Fist a nuke. Firium, All Out Pummeling, Black Hole Eclipse, the list goes on and on. Zeraora, with its speed and its little want for power that it has, it definitely wishes it had more power. The Z move does definitely help with that, so it makes a very interesting Z option. I chose it as my Z user in the league where I do have it, and it's a pretty fun option to have. It's definitely not a top end Z user like your Garchomps, your Landorus Therians, pretty much every 4 times Ice Weak Mon in Tier 1. But it is a good Z option if that's the best you've got. And I want to talk now about Zeraora's value in League format. There's a lot of debate about if it would be Tier 1 or Tier 2. And the one league that I had it in that did complete UNL Season 1, I went through a whole season with it. It had 14 KOs and 2 deaths, if I'm not mistaken, and it was very strong in the MVP discussion. Although we never did get that vote complete, it was a very real option. It played very well for me, and I think personally I think Zeraora is a Tier 1. It's not a high-end Tier 1. You have a lot of people arguing that it's a Tier 2 by saying, well, what does it do better than Tapu Koko? It's not better than Tapu Koko, but Tapu Koko is a consummate round 1 pick, and you don't have to be as good as Tapu Koko to be a Tier 1. It may not be the best Tier 1, but with its speed, it's a really good cleaner, and I think it's too good for Tier 2. That's my personal take on it. I think very well you could see it be a UU or a borderline in the tiers. I do not think it's really going to shake up the OU tier that much, but I think it definitely has some real value in Draft League. It's a Pokemon I've drafted before, it's a Pokemon I'll draft again, and if they actually do move it down to Tier 2, it's a Pokemon I am going to take a lot, because I think Zeraora is definitely better than Tier 2. How many Pokemon with speed and power like this do you really see in Tier 2? You don't really see a lot of Pokemon that are very fast in Tier 2. And the good Tier 2, the good fast Pokemon, they get used in Draft League and they work well. And a fast electric, it's not really looked at as the must as it once was in Draft League, but it's still a nice thing to have. And Zeraora is a great option for it. It's also a great electric immunity option, and you do need an electric immunity. So my take on Zeraora is that it is a serviceable Tier 1. I do not think it should be in Tier 2. And I really look forward to seeing how this thing does with its release into the tiers in Draft League. Any predictions you guys have about Zeraora, where it will land, or any opinions you have on it, please comment down below. I want to thank you guys for watching. have yourselves a good night.